Hey, welcome to the Art Condition Podcast, a weekly show that will discuss the business, community, and often undiscussed stress and mental health concerns of being a professional artist, or even a serious hobbyist. I'm Joby. I've been in the tattoo and illustration professions for 25 years. My co-host is Moose, a data analyst, social media manager, and art agent. If you enjoy the content, please consider visiting the Patreon page in the show notes to help support the effort. Or if that's not an option, please like, subscribe, leave a good review, or just share with your friends. And definitely go visit the links of our guests on this episode. Thanks for listening, and have a great day. This week, we are talking to YungKhan, or Khan for short. Khan has carved out a solid niche for himself, creating emotes for live streamers on the Twitch platform, as well as other graphic design and branding packages. In our talk, you will hear a lot of good information on how to lay a solid base for your business and build on it. We also talk about how to produce multiple revenue streams from single products. We also talk a bit about what it means to be a professional and handle yourself in a way that conveys confidence and expertise, especially when dealing with difficult clients or difficult projects. Khan has an incredible work ethic, and he talks a lot about how the mental and physical discipline of martial arts has translated directly into keeping a steady pace under heavy workloads of his business. We also touch a little on pricing and how to ensure that you are being compensated fairly. All in all, it's a discussion that will leave you feeling motivated and inspired, as well as full of great business advice. One quick piece of housekeeping before we start. There will be no live episode of Art Condition on the 28th of March. We will still release the recorded episode from the 21st of March, but then there will be no recorded episode released on April 4th. Sorry if that's confusing, but it is what it is. Without any more delay, here's our talk with YungKhan. Khan, hello, man. Thank you so much for coming to hang out with us today.
It is my pleasure to be here.
Yeah, dude. I've been looking forward to talking to you for a while. Your process, your experience watching you on Twitch has been really interesting. So I look forward to this conversation, and I want to jump right in by way of some personal history. If you could, just tell us a little bit about yourself and what got you hooked into art and what made you stay.
All right. So I did art in high school and like all growing up, and I got accepted to like the Cleveland Institute of Art, which is a pretty nice school, which was like, I don't know, in 2000 money, like $40,000 a year, which is like, it's not going to happen. So that didn't happen. I took one semester of graphic design at KSU, and then I flunked out and started to do some t-shirt stuff in like the early 2000s with some hardcore bands with my buddy Ace. And that lasted like a year or two. And then right around 2006 or 7, I stopped making art for like a decade. Didn't really do anything. I started teaching at a high school, and I bought a house, and then like, just kind of fell apart. I was competing, I was fighting. It was just like, I had too much going on. I stopped creating altogether. I got back into doing art. Really, just if it hadn't been, if you guys don't know, I have a very rare, not very rare, but it's a semi-rare neuromuscular disease called myasthenia gravis, and it attacked. And I lost vision in one eye. I had double vision. I couldn't use my hands. I couldn't walk. Couldn't swallow food or water. I shrank up like 40-50 pounds. And on the recovery, I was bodybuilding before then. I was competing in martial arts. I decided to get back into doing art like 4.5 years ago, because I couldn't do the physical things I was doing before. So I jumped into doing I bought a refurb laptop on Amazon for a few $100, and I started drawing, like, trying to draw with the trackpad, trying to call myself doing some digital art back then.
Nice.
Yeah, it was a pen tool in Photoshop. That's how I was making all my shapes. But I was like, I was making some game fan art, and eventually people were like, "Oh man, I saw you did like a portrait for my buddy, for his avatar from a video game." I was like, "Can you do one for me?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure, I can do that." How much? $50. It'll take me 2 weeks to make, but $50 sounds good. And that kind of spiraled into like me doing people's, profile pictures. And eventually somebody came to me and was like, "Hey, can you make Twitch emotes?" And I was like, "Yeah, I can make Twitch emotes." I had never made a Twitch emote before, and I wasn't even on Twitch.
I like that.
Never
Just say yes.
Twitch emote. Yes. If I can't do it, I'll learn how to. If there's a hustle in it, I'll find a way to make it work. So I made my first Twitch emotes exactly 4 years ago this month, actually. 4 years ago in March. And since that time, I've made over 4,700 emotes for Twitch, which is like 0.01% of all the emotes on Twitch I've probably made.
That's a lot.
No, from there, it's a lot. It's more than a few. I got into doing design work. I got into doing logo design, and all that I just kind of picked up from watching YouTube videos. And I kind of moved away from illustration as a main focus of my business model, and doing more design work, learning animations and motion design. But it was all just it's another piece of the puzzle. So that's how I got here.
So, rewinding a little bit to art school, and you said that you took, what was it, one semester, or you just like one class of graphic design and flunked out?
Yeah.
What was it that was it graphic design? Was it the school? What was it that you're just like, I'm out of here?
It was a combination of, I thought I was going to be doing art, and it was graphic design because I didn't read the bio very well. And it was all traditional graphic design. Like, you did everything by hand. It was lots of like X-Acto blades and sticky tack, and some of the most brutal and kind of nasty professors I've ever seen like walk the planet. It was just like, I would see people work on their projects. We would work on our projects in the community area, and the horrors that went down on review day, like, made people like literally break down and cry in class. And I was like, I'm not sure if this is what I want to do. Also, I never drank before then, so a combination of alcohol that I never partook in before, and poor study practices kind of kicked out.
Okay, fair enough. So it was somewhat your decision, somewhat.
I think it's better that I didn't finish that up. Yeah, I think it's better than I didn't go through with that, because all my buddies that graduated the program, none of them work in graphic design. One teaches the class of graphic design at the college, and I was like, I don't know. I don't know. I'm glad I flunked out, and I'm glad I had my first beer. So that was a win for me.
Yeah, alcohol, right on. Podcast is over. So when you, from the point of saying yes to doing Twitch emotes, to like, because anybody that's like tried to do a Twitch emote that doesn't know, it's deceptively complex. There's a lot of little things, no pun intended, that go into making an emote work, and it doesn't if you don't know what you're doing, it doesn't always work out. I imagine you picked it up pretty quickly, but when you just said, yeah, I'll start doing that, like what was your process for actually like learning how to make it not be terrible?
Well, it had to be simple because I was drawing it all with my trackpad, so I couldn't get overly complicated because I didn't have the tools to be overly complicated. If you're trying to carve a face out of stone, you only got one chisel and one hammer. You pretty much can only do the thing you can do with one chisel and one hammer. the more tools you have at your disposal, the more experience you have, you think you can put all the knowledge into a tiny image. It doesn't really work out that way. I think having less when I started out, having less to work with made it a lot easier, because making a face, you're like, oh yeah, make a face, and it'll be an eye and a mouth, and we'll go from there. The next step was to learn what makes a great emote, and that just takes a little bit of like almost like some reverse engineering. So you will look at your top 100 emotes on Twitch that people use, and like, what about this shape at this size makes this great? And that's just being observant, which any artist can. The top tool in any artist like toolbox should be observation to detail. Because without good observation, it can't really have great creation. You can have great creation, but it's not going to be, on par with what you're seeing or executing to the highest extent you can. So once I saw what great emotes, what was they're composed of, the breakdown, you get out of 28 by 28, and you shrink it up, and you like blow it up on screen, like, oh, this is just like 3 colors. This isn't like, and it looks like sleight of hand. You look at it small, like that's got to be like 58 colors, yo. And you go to shrink it, you'll blow it up. You're like, no, this is like 5 colors. This is not. I thought it was more than this, but it's not. Like great emote design is not. It just takes It takes if you've done like traditional illustration, and you're like, oh, this makes a great painting. This makes a great illustration. Makes a great T-shirt design. Forget all that. Forget everything you thought you knew. Just forget all that completely. Take that T-shirt design and then make it 28 by 28 pixels. Is it still telling the same story? And most likely it is not.
There's a lot in common between emote design and designing assets for like a mobile phone game or something.
It's almost exactly the same. If you can do good pixel art, if you can do good asset art, you can be a great. Actually, some of the best asset artists, I know one that works for Zynga, does amazing emote art. The thing is, though, the amount of detail they go into making their assets isn't conducive for what you would charge to make an emote. So when they make a great asset, it's a few $100s. It's a beautiful piece of art. And if you are some artists can get away with it. I mean, some streamers can get away with paying $100 or $200 for an emote. But I mean, it's worth it. It's not very time conducive though. So I kind of strayed away from that. As I could do it, it would just take 4 times the time and probably 5 times the money.
For people listening, there's some really good lessons that are worth writing down there, taking note of. Like less tools is better. Like the less things that you give yourself to work with kind of forces your creativity, forces that simplifying, and in the long run, teaches you more, because once you get those shapes, those basic tools down, then you start adding in little things. And having that analytical mind, that's like a key ingredient to, self-guided education that I think a lot of people don't think about conscientiously. It's there and it's happening even if you're unaware of it, but it's being able to like put that in front of yourself and use that as a tool in itself to analyze and try and figure out what are the things that are making X, Y, and Z work well. In being self-guided yourself, like, have you had like any mentors or big inspirations like that have helped you kind of like move into where you're at now, or have you just kind of just flown by the seat of your pants the whole way?
I would say both. When I first got inspired to do like more art, there was a lot of Destiny fan artists that were making stuff, and I was like, you can't really do much when you're rehabbing from surgery and stuff. So I'm scrolling through Instagram and playing video games, and I'm like, I would really love to make more art again. And one of my good friends, he became a good friend afterwards. I was following his art on Instagram, Cobb1, artist out of Nevada. Got to meet several times at different conventions. He seeing his stuff kickstarted me into making stuff. And I wasn't really in the art scene anymore. I had no idea what artists, were out. I wasn't on, like, I made my Twitter because I played video games 5 years ago. And Instagram, I was basically just following a bunch of bodybuilders and powerlifters. So finding artists on there all came much, much later. But my band Cobb one was a huge one. I got into doing more. I actually learned Illustrator completely because of Hydro 7.4. And once I followed him, I started like picking up his technique, like trying to figure out exactly how we shape things. That was like a huge inspiration. And then he like saw some of my work, I think last year, and commented on it. I was like, oh my God. And we started talking a little bit. So that was like another huge like thing for me. Sweda, another guy who works in Illustrator. But a huge part of the acumen, the education, all came from a YouTube channel run by Chris Do, called The Future. That was one of the major impetuses into like springboarding what was, a business that was sustainable. I was making more money than I was as a bartender, but that springboarded like, tripling the income, in a number of months. Was just following some of those cues. Like, I don't follow the designs much from the channel, but I do follow the business advice. And it was like, it's worth its weight in gold.
Yeah, I have recommended that channel on many occasions, especially to people that are in disbelief. When you run up against that resistance, and when you're gently trying to explain to somebody that they could be charging a lot more, and it's like you can't convince them to believe it. Here, watch this video. So in building your business, the things that I'm aware of that like the services and the products you provide, you're doing this branding and graphic design work, mainly surrounding Twitch emotes, animations, and overlays. And you also have educational material. And do I have all that right, or did I miss anything? Merchandise.
I produce my own merchandise under the Conquer brand. I do sell beanies, so stickers and all that kind of stuff, t-shirts, hoodies. So I have my own like personal brand of merchandise. Coursework. I think that's pretty much it. Yeah.
So this arrangement of like multiple revenue streams is something that you hear talked about as a wise thing to start setting up as early as possible. When you were starting this ball rolling and kind of like building up a business for yourself, did you have that in mind from the beginning? Was it intentional, or did you just kind of start with one thing and then start adding in new things as you went?
I just started adding in new things as I went. One thing I've learned is that when you're producing a product and you're producing this end content, what you want to do is make it as rare as possible. I know it sounds kind of weird, but if you can produce a product at a very high quality, and you can still have great customer service and good client rapport, you build up a very good amount of goodwill towards you as an organization, you as a brand, you as a designer. And I didn't want to jump the gun on producing like all this other content without building up that goodwill first. Because you could be the best designer in the world, but if you shove too many things in people's face at one time, I do this. Here's my storefront. Here's all this stuff. You paying attention? I got my Patreon. I got a code. Are you looking at this thing? I got all this stuff over here. If you move from this thing like I did emote design, and eventually people would say, "Well, do you do logos?" And I'm like, no, but I'll learn how and I'll get back to you. Do you do mascot design? Nope, but I'll take a class and I'll learn how and I'll get back to you. Do you do motion graphics? No, but I'll learn how and I'll get back to you. And eventually I just learned how and got back to them. So I've had people come to me for a job that was $40 when I first started. Like they got 2 emotes or 3 emotes, whatever I was charging back then. And now they're like, oh yeah, I want this. I'm like, okay, that'll be $3,000. They're like, yep, for you, I'll do it because you've been doing this. You're reliable. You've always been there. In the thousands of jobs. I think I've had over 2,200 jobs in 4 years, like individual jobs. I've only had less than 20 clients not be happy with what they got. And that takes a lot of foresight, knowing when things are going right, knowing things are going wrong, and being upfront with your clients about what's going on. Once you build up that goodwill, you can kind of expand what you do and to press those boundaries, because people say, where'd you get that done at? Oh, this guy made it. I would love to learn how to do that. And I'm like, hey, you can learn how to do this. Here's my course. Here's my Patreon. Here's a number of links that will take you to this place. Some things are free, some things aren't. But becoming like a voice in the space, you don't want to profess yourself to be an expert. You kind of let the community do that for you. So I know when it steps up, I'm an expert. I'm like, but are you though? But are you though? When people say, that's the man to go to, I'm like, well, I do a few things, and here are the things I do. And if you want to do these things too, I'd like to help you. So if you try to help out, people learn more things, or to create better things, or to even get them, or to be honest with the people you're working with. I'm like, I want to get this and this done. I'm like, you could, and that's going to run you, X amount of dollars, but it'd be better if you didn't do this and just redid this thing back here, because everything you have is working. You're throwing money at a problem, and I would take your money. I will willingly take your money, but I'm telling you this right now, you're wasting your money doing this. Like, being a good consultant is also, it builds a goodwill with your client base. So, no, nothing. I didn't really start out just shopping a bunch of things around. I kind of just everything builds one on top of the other, and people ask for things, and eventually you provide as a service provider, or try to provide.
Yeah, lots more notes there for people to be taking. Rewind and write down everything that he just said. You mentioned some other producers, content creators that sort of like inspired you. You modeled yourself after a little bit. As far as developing this business model, though, were you following those? The people that you mentioned before, were you following them as a business model as well, or were there other things? You mentioned the future channel on YouTube as well. Were there other things that you sort of like incorporated or used as a template?
No, not really, because the artists I were following, Hydro Swim Force working with like Nike and Marvel. I'm like, how I'm gonna market myself to Marvel? I haven't made anything yet. He does have a Patreon. My buddy Cobb works with like Topps, like Star Wars cards. So, that's not really something I model myself after. A lot of the business advice came from the future. I made an Emote course. It took me 1 week to write and a day to film it all with like minimal edits. And I got that idea from watching the future, a guy who does tutorials for Adobe programs. So that's what he does. He's like, I produced my first course, I made, $10,000 on it. I was like, it took me like a weekend to make. I was like, a weekend to make? I can make a course. I can make a course. I stream. I got a camera. I got a microphone. People know me. I could do that. And I produced the course, and I saw what he was talking about, what he going for different platforms. So a lot of the stuff is they have different guests on the future. I'm just looking and listening and taking notes. Like, $15,000, huh? Weekend. Word? Oh no. And they have followings, and I'm like, I got somewhat of a following. When I came to Patreon, people were like, make a Patreon. Like, what do you mean to make? I don't know. And I was like, so when I came to that, I was like, well, if I make a Patreon, I'm not the best illustrator. There are a shit ton of illustrators out there that they're making the most mind-blowing pieces. And I'm like, I can't even draw a neck right, let alone get this. I'm not getting the NSFW crowd in with this stuff. This is not going to work. So instead, like with any other business, there was a hole in the market, and that hole in the market was, well, I would get this email from people, this DM. Oh yeah, my emotes are X dollars. They're $30 a piece, or they're for $80. Oh man, I'm gonna come back in a few months and I'm gonna see about. I'm like, okay, so sometimes this amount of money people don't have. So what I thought was, I'll make a Patreon, and I'll make 10 emotes a month for different games, different memes. I'll just make 10 emotes a month, and that'll be like $300 worth of content, and I'll sell it for $10. I'll just sell it for $10. And I'm like, oh, that sounds like a good idea. This will be a good way to help people get high quality emotes, and I can also, fund some other projects for myself. And like, this should be good. I might lose in the first, 3 or 4 months, but whatever. I'll put it up, and consistently every month, it takes me like a day and a half maybe to just knock out 10 emotes with some ideas, and that creates about $1,000 in just income. So I'm tripling that value of just that residual stuff. Now from there, I've taken all that content from the past year, and luckily I've talked to the patrons first. I'm like, okay, all this stuff is done. You guys have had it for 2-3 years. Would you guys be okay if I took that old stuff and sold it for a higher price? And they're like, yeah, okay, I don't care. You had it up a year ago. I mean, if you're gonna resell it, we paid for it well over it, and we don't care if you resell it. So that's what they sell on my website. So those things that were $10 for that month are now $30-$40 on the website as digital downloads. So that's all passive income. In the first week, I was like, somebody I might make $40-$50. I ended up making like $500 on some stuff that I made a year and a half ago. So I'm repurposing my content as just something to, because you can't. If anybody out here that does commissions, anybody that does design work, anybody that wants to get off of the wheel, the continual wheel of I need to have this amount of commissions to make life not hate me. I need this amount to make the lights stay on. I need this amount to eat a cheese sandwich. If you make commission work your only sole form of income, you are going to be in for a very stressful, long, and depressing ride. If there is a way to take what you do and move it to a more passive setting, and if you do something really well, if you can, like people say, put it on YouTube, and I'm like, if you don't have the following to get the clicks and the views and be able people sit through it, and I don't see that as viable for somebody like myself. So instead, I took that information from making 3,000 emotes or 4,000 emotes, and I'll make it into a course. And they were like, "Oh, you can put it on Skillshare. It'd be $20. You'll get that." And I'm like, "Yeah," and you get half of the money, or Skillshare takes half. And I'm like, that sounds like pimping. I'm not getting ready to be pimped.
My understanding is that Skillshare pays you per minute watched. It's like 5 cents per minute watched. So if you have a 1 hour tutorial and 100 people watch it, that's 60 times 5 cents times 1,000 people, or however many people. That's per month. So
yeah. That wasn't an option for me at all. It's like, if I'm going to put this information out there, because the one thing about in the digital age, and everyone knows this, you can learn anything on the internet for free. Learn anything. Now, since it's free, you don't care about it that much. You're not putting any value in it. Like, there could be a master sculptor out there, a master, whatever you want to do. There's a master giving you the information for free. Like, oh yeah, I'll learn it from there. And you go to look it up, and you'll get into it for 5 minutes. You're like, I'll come back to it later. It's free. It'll be forever. No, it is like that. I know how this is. I taught martial arts for quite some time, and if I'm giving you something, most likely you're not going to value what I'm teaching you. And it took me, thousands of hours of repetition to make it happen. You're going to take it as, it's passable, and you'll forget about it. So I was like, I'll move my course to a website where I charge. They pay me. They charge like $300 a month, or not a month, $300 a year to host the course. You can set the price to whatever you want. I was like, $75. people are like, why is the course $75? And I'm like, if you make 3 emotes, you've already paid for the course. So these are this is money making. This is money making stuff. This isn't what do you call it? This isn't theory. This is how I started this business. I'm not giving it away for $20 or $19.99 or $9.99. It's $75 and you'll make that money back in one job. And this is just the base information. So if you have great information, be careful of how you not be careful how you present it. Be mindful of how you present it. And know that what you do has value. Your information, your knowledge has value. I'm not saying you shouldn't help people, because people come to the stream and ask me the questions that are in the course, and I'm like, well, you do it like this, and I'll show them. I'm like, oh, you want to learn the entire thing? The course is over there. I'm not holding back information, but you want it all in one place. Here it is. It's all packaged and bundled for you. You can watch whenever you want. And that was the way I approached that. So passive income is the way to go. It can't be, and you can't really get away with passive income in the beginning unless you have a very, very unique idea that's not been done before. Because I had not seen anybody do emotes for Patreon. I was like, people were selling them on Gumroad, and they just like stuff like that. And I'm like, that's an idea, but I'd rather just keep all that, as much as the money that it can make from what I do in one place. So that was my idea behind that. Now we be pimped. Yeah.
The other thing I heard is it was advice from somebody else doing tutorials. I think it was on ArtStation or something. And they were suggesting putting your courses up for at least $75 so that way it looks valuable to people. They see all these $5 tutorials out there and like, oh, that must not be very, deep. But what makes this what makes this worth $100? What makes this worth $75? And they're curious, so they look into it, and then they get interested, and then they either buy it if they're serious, or maybe they don't have the money or whatever. But you'll end up making more money in the long run if you have something that stands out, if only because of the price.
Yeah. The course is it was a year old on January 30th of this past January, and since then I've had over 275 students. I think a few of those were half price intro courses too, though. But
I like what you said, about charging for your information, putting value on it, as an important thing to do, because sometimes you'll hear some opinions or maybe even some debate about education should be free, information should be free. I want to give all of this stuff away for free. And while that might be true, time is the the ultimate resource, right? That's the ultimate finite resource. And if you're putting your time into it, it seems fair to say some compensation for that is reasonable. And I think that's it makes me happy to hear you say that. Anytime anybody talks about that, we need more of that information out there. It's okay for you to want to be compensated for the work that you do if you're providing value. So you're on Domestika, right? Is that the
Teachable?
Teachable. Where did I get Domestika from? There's so many educational platforms out there. You guys were talking a little bit about Skillshare also, and I think Domestika is another one, right? And what's anyway, we don't have to go through the list of them. What made you decide Teachable was the one that you wanted to use?
Well, a lot of the websites, they'll do marketing for the course themselves. They'll market. That's why you're paying them a good chunk of money. They'll put your course up in a number of searches and whatnot. Teachable is not really searchable. That's why it's you get to keep most of your money, because they're not doing the advertising for you. So it was sometimes you get to take a gamble on yourself. I was like, $300 worth of gamble? Yeah. I think $300 is worth the gamble. I mean, maybe I'll sell 5 courses, maybe I won't, but I'll be out $300 and it'll be a learning experience. And fortunately, it was a great source of income. I think we just crossed the 10 grand mark, or a little bit over that, in the past month or so, just from a weekend to work, a weekend to filming, with a dog barking in the background for like part of the course.
And you said it's what, a year old?
Yeah, a year and 2 months old.
And that's not bad. And does it continue to bring in revenue for you, like consistently?
Yeah. Sometimes, so some months is like you make $150. Some months you make $1,500. It all depends. I had the course up for sale for 50% off for the 1 year anniversary, and somebody in my stream bought 10 copies of it to give away. So it just keeps making money, and I don't do anything. It's just I don't even think about it anymore. It's kind of like Patreon. It's just I don't think about it anymore.
Yeah,
Have you released any additional?
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I'm writing 2 more courses actually. I'm writing an emote design 102. First one is emote design 101, fundamentals and concepts, because I'm crafty. And the next one will be, the second version will be all the finishing touches, all the finals, and then I'll move into some of the presentation stuff I do for my clients. And the other course is going to be an intro to Illustrator course, but mostly for Twitch designers. Which all these things I've done as courses, I've already done on Patreon as testing grounds, so I can get feedback on what they like and what they don't like about the educational content I produce. Like I made one on Illustrator already, but it's not polished. It's just me on the screen for 2 hours. It's not broken up into any fundamentals. And I've already seen people just take that course and just start their own businesses. And I'm like, oh, that's that $5 or $10 experiment is successful, and then eventually that content will come off the Patreon, and it'll be another course for to put up on my website.
I've noticed that a few people, like when I tell them to consider making a course, they'll get hung up on one part of the process, whether it's the writing part or the filming part or the editing part. Was there anything that you had a snag with?
No, I don't edit. No, I don't. I don't have time to make it look pretty. I want it to be functional. No, presentation is great. Like I worked as a cook, as a meat cutter. If making a meal look good, a good expo, make it look pretty. I mean, it's great. I just need. I'm more into like, is this thing a hammer? Does it hit nails in? Then it's good. Like if I think about making something look great, I just need it to be straight to the point. A, B, C. We're gonna learn this, and this. This is step 1. Step 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's go back through it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is just from teaching martial arts for just a number of years. All right, I want you to stand still. Put your hands up. Not that loose. Not that tough. Be loose. Not that loose. Put your hands in front of your face. Don't get smacked. All right, not that low, not that high. So being specific and showing people where and when to like make certain changes and what makes a good emote and what makes a bad emote. This is a good decision or a bad decision. So I go through it like that. So you have steps when you're doing a painting. You have steps. You don't want a white background. You want to have some a little bit off white. You don't want to burn your eyeballs out. All right, you want your canvas to be this size. You want to be too big or you want to be too small. You don't want to brush this too big or too small. You want to shrink it down, make sure it works. All those small little points are just tucked into every single lesson. Just A, B, C, D is just straight on the list. So working about editing. Is my voice too high? Just film 10 minutes of you talking, and if it looks presentable, there you go. Make your camera small, big enough, and there's that. Everything else is just there's no commercial for the course. There's no preview of me drawing on the screen. I didn't. There's no like breakdown of like an infomercial of me doing it. There is just one still image, and me from Twitter because I make a lot of emotes for people, and that's how I sold it. I think the more you show people, like, well, how do I know I'm getting? Well, there's a list of things you're getting right here. Is there a video? No, it's not. It's not a video. There's no video. I got 100+ students now. They've taken it. Well, 200+ students now. They've taken it, and they're all making stuff. So, isn't that good enough? It's kind of like the old trick with people that contact young designers. Well, you know, me and my colleagues would like to have this made, but we want to see how you would make it first. Fuck no, dude.
Free work? What? Exposure
No.
bucks.
You can pay me. I got contacted by somebody that has literally millions of followers on YouTube, or is, you know, his contact man. And they're like, oh yeah, you know, we would literally like to work with you on this, and you know, blah, 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 blah. We need it by, you know, in 2 weeks. I'm like, all right, you know, that'll be, you know, $2,000 for this logo because of the time frame. They're like, can we see what it looks like first? No, you cannot see what it looks like. Oh. Are you sure about this? I am very sure. It was great talking to you, though. Now I'll be around if you need me.
The real insidious shit is when they try and pitch you against other artists. You know, it's like, oh, well, we want to get a sampling of different artists, and then we're going to pick the best one. Like, that's fucked up, because now you're not only trying to get free work from me, but you're trying to, like, instigate this, like, lower cortex bullshit, you know, to, like, make me feel like a fighting animal where I have to compete with all of these people. That's messed up, man. Don't do that.
Oh, it's messed up. I'm like, oh, we got all these other artists working on this project. I'm like, good. You know, contact me when all that fails.
This no editing thing, though, man, that's kind of blowing my mind. I would like to think that that's something that you can learn. I don't know if a lot of people come to the table with that sort of effortlessness.
Oh, I mean, you can edit it. I've been talking to people as a bartender, as a teacher for, you know, almost a decade. So it's like I do a Monday morning YouTube video for 15 minutes, and it's never edited. It's just I hit record, I hit upload, and then I go about my business. If I'm going to have something edited, I'll just hire an editor. But I didn't edit it because I know if I was going to edit it, it would never get done.
Right. What is it? Perfection is the enemy of good.
Yeah, just let it go.
What
was it? Yeah.
Incidentally, what branch of martial arts were you teaching?
Oh, I was teaching Kuntao Salat, which is a Chinese Indonesian branch of martial arts. That's the one I was teaching, but I trained in three different kinds of just Chinese martial arts. Kuntao Salat is closer to, I guess you would say, Kali, maybe, with the knife fighting aspect. But yeah, I competed for like 7 or 8 years. I did full contact fighting for 5 years. I probably had close to 100 trophies in like the 10-year span of like competing, which eventually I just threw all that shit away because there's something very I'm gonna just go on a small tangent here. There's something very hollow about awards, because you're just the best there was there that day. I mean, that's not to detract from what the victory you may have had, but it kind of gives you a false sense of like superiority. And I was like, this is plastic and marble, and it's taking up too much fucking space in my basement B. So I think all the big ones we got rid of. I got like maybe 12 little ones laying around. I kept all those medals because I like to hang them on stuff. But yeah, I've been doing martial arts for like 25 years. Kind of slowed down during the art times, but yeah, good times.
That's interesting. I don't think I've ever heard it put that way. That the hollowness of, it's not the hollowness of victory necessarily that you're talking about, but having that trophy, having this like piece of plastic up there to kind of like remind you of this glorious moment. I could see how that could be counterproductive, because then you get like you're just in this like memory loop of like, well, that was a great
Al
day.
Bundy with the Polk High School touchdown. You're like, wow. It's just I've seen teachers of just they hang on to these things Like I hold on to a few things, but it's not progressing. The art's not progressing. You as a martial artist is not progressing. You as a fighter, you're not getting any better. It's not making you better standing on all this stuff, staying on a pound like a mile of trophies. Like it says something that you went out there and you did the thing. Like you did this, you got first place. You're like, bam. But did you get any better? Did that make you better? Is that making you hungry? Like nothing's more hungry than loss. Nothing makes you more hungry than slamming your face into a wall. Again, slammed face first by some guy you think that should have been an easy toss. Nothing is more motivating than being knocked down to a pulp. For me, that's not for everybody. Like when I came down with the disease, I was a little depressed because I was bodybuilding. You know, I had a 6-pack and I was shredded. You know, I was king shit. And then your body withers away. You got an eye patch on. You're in a hospital bed. You got a pipe in your neck, and you got a pipe pumping plasma out of your heart into a machine that's putting in fresh plasma. And the bounce back. That was everyone loves a bounce back. Everyone loves a comeback. That made me realize a lot of things about life and how short it is and how fragile it is. And how you spend your time and what's important and what's not important. A lot of stuff I was doing is not important. I don't know. This is a bunch of bullshit. I could do better than this. So I try to do better. I try to have other people like do a little bit better. Like being the best designer or the best emote artist isn't important as being the best person you can be, or being the best martial artist doesn't mean jack shit if you're just shitting on everybody that does something different than you do. So
I actually admire you that you've been able to maintain the motivation going forward after that illness. I had a near-death experience like last year, and I'm already forgetting all the lessons I learned, like the immediate decisions to make every moment matter. I don't feel that anymore. I've already moved past that. I'm already back to the old normal. So you being able to keep pushing forward and keep that all that important stuff in mind, you're a better man than me, I guess.
There's one book and one movie that helped with that, by Dan Millman, called No Ordinary Moments. There's a movie produced like in the 2000s called The Peaceful Warrior with Nick Nolte. It's a really good flick. I suggest everybody watch. It's about an Olympic gymnast. He breaks one of his legs, he shatters it, and he comes back to join the Olympics. It is a great film. But the book No Ordinary Moments puts a lot of things in perspective. If you don't see behind me, I'm a little bit of a reader. I'm really big into philosophy, religion, and all those books back there. They're all the kind of this boil, like all the religion philosophy books kind of boil down to like a few simple tenets that are take you through life. And life is monotonous. It's a long, tiresome road, and if you focus on like the end of the road so much, you kind of just lose sense of like your bearing in reality. Like you become like an automaton or a robot, and all the things that are happening just you kind of get numb to them. And I've gotten numb to things, and kind of just snapping yourself back into reality. Like, oh, yeah, this might be shitty for me, or this might be great for me, but what can I do for the people around me instead of this? Because the ultimate fact that you have near-death experience, every time I take my shirt off, I got to see these 3 cuts. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I got one on my neck. So I just see these scars from the surgery. And I'm like, well, everyone doesn't last forever. No one lives forever. So how can I make the person older than me, younger than me? How can I make them have a better trajectory? And that's like something I learned teaching at the high school, like putting all the lessons into perspective. And you see yourself when you start to see yourself in everybody, and I mean everybody, even the people you hate. When you see yourself in every person you come across, it changes the way you see the universe in itself, which sounds but it's really true. Yeah.
No, I like that. It reminds me of something similar that I like to try and remind myself of whenever possible. I'm definitely not very good at it all the time, but I remember somebody pointing out that everybody used to be a baby. It even fucking well, name the person that you dislike the most, and then imagine them as a baby, and it's a helpful exercise. It doesn't mean forgive them for all of the atrocious shit that they're doing, but it's a useful mental exercise in trying on empathy for a moment and realizing that this person is just damaged. Like there's a lot of damage in the world, and that's more what you're up against than just like evil per se. The philosophy thing is wonderful. I would like to bring it back to the business real quick though, momentarily, because I'm curious to know about well, real quickly, the educational material. You say that that's not searchable on the platform that it's on, but you still maintain regular sales. What's your method for promoting it to the degree that you do market it? How do you go about making it known that it's there?
I don't actively market it, to be honest. I have like a little keyword set up in my title, exclamation emote course, and people come by the channel like, "You make emotes? I would love to learn how to make that." I'm like, "You can, because I wrote a course." And the other thing I do is I have mailers for everything I sell. Everyone gets a card. They get like a little card, and it has a code on the back, for 50% off the course. And then so you buy, something from the store, you get this in the mail. So outside of that, I've thought about doing like, Instagram commercials and stuff like that. And it's like, it would be worth it financially to do so, but I am not ready to put it out there until I produce more course content, because people were already hungry after the first course. I'd rather produce more content and then set up for a big bang. Like, this is all right. I got this one course. Now I have 5 courses. Now here's the rollout. And this is, that potential, 50 grand I can make a year. I can make, 275 grand a year. Yeah, that's a ticket.
My understanding is that each time you put out a new course, it reminds people, first it finds new people, and then those new people find your old course. So it basically asks, the new courses act as advertisements for the old courses. So if you produce 5 more courses over the course of the year, those themselves are now advertisements.
Yeah. The thing I tried not to do is make a bunch of content that people have already done better than I have. Which is also extraordinarily difficult in the digital age. Like, I had not seen an emote course. There might be one now. Like, I hadn't seen anybody put emotes on Patreon, but now a lot of people put emotes on Patreon. And I was like, yeah, maybe I started something, or maybe I didn't. Who knows? You'll never know, because the internet is old, and people do stuff all the time, then forget about it. So yeah,
it's also sort of one of those things where like you have an idea and you thought it was new, and then once you do it, you see everybody else doing it, and you're like, did I just not notice that before? Or is this just like some weird coincidence? Like you picked up on the vibrations, and so did a bunch of other people. In the list of things that you have going on that you kind of like slowly built up and built on top of each other, is there anything that you've tried that hasn't worked? Something that you've had to ditch out on?
Not really.
Well, that's great. You're batting 1,000.
Yes, I'm trying to think of maybe a service I offered before. I'm trying to think of maybe something I offered that didn't work out well, or nope, no, not really.
Yeah, we should all be so lucky, right?
Man, I got to dig a little bit deeper then. What about things you would do differently? thinking of all of your
differently.
Yeah. What would have?
Okay.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So one thing I probably do differently is I would probably pay somebody to redo the presentation of my content online, even though I'm a designer. It's just I spend a lot of time designing stuff for other people, so the presentation is not that great. I'm kind of measured and reckless at the same time. So, like if I have an idea, I would just execute immediately, and then I find out I'm reckless. I'm like, this person does it already, and I think you got the idea from them. Like, did I? Maybe I did. I don't know. Maybe I'll take it down. So that's pretty much it. That's just the presentation value, because I spend an inordinate amount of time just making stuff for other people, and I don't really focus too greatly on what I do, just because of my hectic schedule. Like I'm booked until September right now. September? Yes, September. And rush orders are closed at the moment.
You close rush orders? You don't charge like twice as much?
Oh yeah, no, I do. I have a huge project going through, like a project that would have been like $1,500 is now $3,000, and they want it on rush. I'm like, okay. So it's just a larger order. So yeah, people that order like I need an emote done. I'm like, I need it by tomorrow. I'm like, well, it was supposed to usually be 30, and it was 90 now. They're like, okay. I had a few orders like that. Like my rushers are usually booked up 2 months. Like I'll have the regular 5-month order list. Like I need it on rush, or I need an emergency rush. I have a rush, emergency rush. Your time is very important. Rush is time and a half. So whatever an emote is like $30, okay, it's 45. You have it in 2 months. Oh, I need it tomorrow. It's going to cost you $90. All right, I need 6 of them. You're like, it's your money, man. I just make the stuff.
So you mentioned that you don't really actively promote the coursework, the educational material. Is there anything that you do actively promote, or you all kind of just like let it ride, word of mouth, reputation?
Yeah, word of mouth. Word of mouth. My only concern is producing the highest quality content I can for my clients, and to make sure they're as happy as possible when I produce it, because they are the lifeblood of my business. Even when they can be assholes, they are the lifeblood of my business.
Oh, we got a question about assholes coming up.
Okay.
But no, yeah, it's I wanted to underscore that, just to be sure that that's it ties back to what you were saying kind of at the beginning, like building up your reputation, showing yourself to be reliable, making quality content. That's worth almost like all the marketing that you could possibly want to pay for. Just like all of this like upfront work first is worth that much and more. So switching up just a little bit, when you're working with somebody on a branding package, emotes, whatever it may be, do you take their input? Is it a collaboration, or is it more just like Khan does what Khan does?
It's a collaboration up to a point. I've actually just had a client recently, the past week, where I produced, what they wanted in their brief, but they sent me some other material that they wanted the direction to go down, and I had to inform them what they wanted would be a poor decision. It would make them look bad. It would make me look bad, and I let them know the job was over. Unfortunately, this is not going to work out for me or you, because I value my reputation, and I value what we have done together. So we've got to part ways. So it was a collaboration to that point until they wanted something that design-wise would have been a homunculus of just wrong. So it should be a collaboration, because I want clients to be happy. But I want to maintain that what I produce will be to a certain quality. So you almost got to protect your namesake, because I've had early on clients where what they've wanted, I'm like, honey, this, that, and that. And I'm like, all right, whatever. I'm trying to get paid, whatever. And you make it, and you're like, oh man, I love it. And I'm like, I'm glad you're happy. Are you going to produce one of those little like things, the animation? I'm like, I am not going to produce one of those, and I'm going to put my name on it because this is awful. You want to be an art director, but you have no art direction. I'm sorry.
When you
I hope your community likes it.
When you encounter a situation like that, is there any back and forth beforehand? Like, do you try and reason with them before you fire them as a client, or is it just like, I don't have time for this?
Yeah, I reason with them. This is what you want. This is what is going to look good. Well, I want something like this. Well, I mean, you might want to hire that person because this is going to be a mistake. You want that to be the face of your branding, but I forgot about it already. If somebody contacts me about branding or identity work, like, oh yeah, I want to have this, I want all these materials, and I want this, that, and the other, and I'm like, so you want a painting and not a logo? Well, yeah, you should contact a painter.
Yeah, in essence, you have to, as you're branding for other people, you also need to stay true to your own brand. You can't be like all over the place doing just anything, right? I mean, it's got to look like yours.
I do almost anything, yeah. I do pretty much anything. But if you, that's why I asked you up front, what are you using this for?
Right. Yeah, that's more what I meant. Yeah.
We don't do that here. No. Oh, somebody t-shirt design. Well, yeah, we'll do anything we want a t-shirt design, dude. It's fine, yeah. This would be a face of my business. No, we cannot do that. I am not putting my name on that, sir. You this is a mistake waiting to happen. So I try to let them know, like, okay, so tell me about your favorite brands. What is your favorite, kind of creating space? What does your brand look like? I see. It's all well crafted, and you want this. Well, this is not going to be that at all, and it's very unfortunate, but keep that. I'm going to keep the deposit because we went through a number of breakdowns and sketches, and I'm going to resell this design to somebody else because it's very strong and you didn't want it. So,
Have you ever had clients lie to you about the purpose behind what they were after?
Sometimes. Somebody contacted me to make an emote for them, and they wanted a logo in it. And yeah, that was a fun story because I literally drew them exactly what they wanted, and I gave it to them at 112 pixels by 56 by 28. And they're like, "Is there a larger size?" No, this is an emote. You paid the emote price. You see up here? It's the right here. Right here. That's the emote. But I wanted to use it as a what? That's what I thought. Have a great day, sir.
You talked about assholes before. Well, you mentioned dealing with assholes. We haven't dug into that yet. We don't have to go too deep. Oh God, that's a terrible pun. I'm sorry. What is your approach with that when you have somebody that wants to micromanage, even beyond just having bad ideas that they're insisting on? Like they're just being difficult. What's your approach to that?
Oh, well, it's very simple. I don't even have to use this speech very often. Because you have to realize when you're dealing with micromanagement, you're dealing with bad design choices, you're dealing with a client that wants 1,000 different things. You're literally spending up all your time capital that you don't need to, and it's costing you more money in the long run. So, in short of that, I'm like, you know what? You kind of me about this project. We went over these certain things. You wanted X, Y, and Z, but now you want A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And unfortunately, I'm sorry to let you know that I cannot execute on these ideas for this price. Now we can go back and negotiate. The new price would be this, but if you find that that's not what you want from me, I completely understand. I'll keep half of the deposit you gave me, and here's the other half back because I booked this order. I've told other clients that this time was already booked, So I think it's fair to me that I keep this portion of the deposit, and you get the half deposit back. You can find it with the designer. But I do want to give you a little bit of advice. When you contact another designer, please let them know upfront exactly what you want. If they have a problem with that, I'll take the entire conversation we had and I'll let them know from point A, you wanted this, and I'll give you a price on it. We get down here, you want this. Do you think that's fair? Well, I wasn't really thinking about it like that. I understand, but next time you'll have more information when you contact another designer. But till then, thanks for choosing Conrad. It's been a pleasure.
That just makes you sound like a con artist.
Badunch. Now Moose has good puns. Somebody in the chat is wondering, how do you get the word of mouth snowball rolling? For some people, it can never start or just die out after a short time. You've talked a little bit about this, but I think maybe they weren't here earlier. Do you want to just briefly touch on that again, as far as like what your thinking is on generating reputation?
So to generate great reputation, you ever look at somebody's like the front of their social media content, and you're like, look at it and like, this is amazing so much so that you're the contact that person and then say, who made this for you? I'd like everyone to have that exact feeling when they see my work. And if I don't have that feeling in my stomach when I make it, I go back and I remake it. Now, being a great designer and getting good word of mouth are two different things. You can be a great designer and have shitty client and customer service skills. All the customer service skills I pretty much garnered from being a bartender and working in food stuff for a number of years. Being empathetic, being a good listener, and then when they ask you for something, you take that idea and you make it not 100 times better. You try to make it like 200 times better. So when they see it and they're like, this is better than I ever dreamed of. And you're like, got your ass now. So when somebody sees that work, I'm like, who made it? Kai made it. Here's his website, and people will tag you all over social media saying, this guy made this, this, and this. Contact them about such things. I've had people I've worked with literally on my first 100 emotes still are tagging me on Twitter every single day. So the mentions are always through the roof because unlike a lot of other designers and other illustrators, longevity is the name of the game. There are a lot of emote artists and a lot of social media designers that you'll see for 6 months to 12 months, and then they'll fall off the face of the planet. And the reason they fall off the face of the planet is because they're not making enough money. And it's not sustainable. They're running a business that's running themselves ragged. They're working 18 hours a day. They're getting the worst clients because they're charging way too little money, and they end up burning themselves out, and they never want to do designs anymore. They've pretty much tanked their entire career because they want it to be marketable and affordable instead of being happy and producing higher end content for those other clients. So people that I've known that are making way better designs and they've been doing it much longer, they'll fizzle out. Like they'll fizzle out and they'll not want to do it anymore because they're, instead of making $75,000 a year, they're making $25,000 a year working the same amount of time they could be making the same amount of money working at McDonald's, and eventually they'll quit. So having your face be up there, being up front, even though I'm not producing work every day on my Twitter, I'm just like, I'll take 40 minutes, I'll sketch something up. I'm doing illustrations. And if I don't have anything on my plate, when I wasn't making any art for a client early on, I'll do passion projects. Like, I want to make this. I want to redesign this video game's. If this video game had a bakery in the basement of where all the NPCs are, how would that logo look? Or, I have all these little ideas. I'm like, I'll make that. And people are like, can you make one of those for me? I'm like, well, yes, I can. How much? 300, 400. you know, and a year later, 500, 600, 3 years later, 750. Like, yeah, that's the play. Passion projects, and taking someone's input and being a good listener. And lastly, the thing that a lot of new designers, need to understand is when they're making something, they're not making it for themselves. And when you make a design you love and you give the client and they hate it, let it go. Let that design go. Let it go. It's not going to work. The client already said it's not going to work. A lot of people burn themselves out on getting upset a client didn't like something they made, instead of being a better listener to actually what they actually want. So when you make something and you love it, good, keep it, put it in the file, and then forget about it. Never get attached to anything you make, ever. If you love a painting and you're like, oh man, I love this thing, somebody stole it, let it go, man. Just let it go. Follow the MCA, whatever you got to do. Just don't worry about it. You're gonna stress yourself out. I made a viral meme right when Bernie came out. That Bernie meme came out, and I made one that it blew up on Twitter. It had like it was on iFunny, it was on Facebook, it was everywhere. It was on Reddit. They had like 90,000 retweets, and then like somebody copied and pasted, and they had like 50,000 retweets. And I'm like, good. I just found those posts, and I'm like, this is my name. You can buy a T-shirt here. This is my name. You can buy a T-shirt here. I didn't like stop stealing my art. Just let it go, because it's in 2 weeks. You're gonna forget about the meme. You're gonna forget about you. But strike while the iron's hot. You don't stress yourself out. Those designs are not for you. The more detached you can be from what you make, the better off you'll be in the long run. The less stress you're gonna, take on your body, which will actually, it's gonna age the fuck out of you. So easy.
There's something that you mentioned earlier in that segment where you said that you do something and then people will like it and then they'll come back to you to buy something similar.
Mm-hmm.
So basically it's similar to what you do with your portfolio, where you only put things in your portfolio that you want to do more of. So if you want to be hired to do emotes, you have to do emote art. And if you want to be hired to do D&D characters, you have to make D&D characters. And then people will hire you to do similar things.
Bingo.
And playing off of what you said too about listening to what the client wants, as opposed to just getting like overly distracted with what you think is going to be cool or whatever. There's a way to do both. Just listen to what the client wants first, then try and like make it something that you enjoy doing, something that you're going to love.
Real quick.
And then kill your darlings. Go ahead.
Did you sell any shirts or anything related to the Bernie meme when you went out? So you capitalized on it.
Like $500 from something I made. It took me like an hour to make. That I was doing. I wasn't like, when I make stuff, I don't expect to make money off of it. So making money off of it is just components. And it's still making money. Like $20 or something a month. But when the iron's hot, the iron's hot.
Right.
When it's not, it's not.
And you also mentioned earlier in that segment where you said you do 200% extra than what they were expecting. How do you balance what they paid for and what you can provide? Do you just boost the price up from the beginning to be something to compensate you for that extra effort to make 200% as good? Or you just, as the opportunity comes up, you don't worry, oh, they only pay for a flat color and I'm giving them cell shading. You just say, this cell shading will make me look better, so I'm gonna do it for myself.
That I don't do. All the stuff is already built into the price. Like some people, when they've been dealing with so many like bad designers that they'll pay $100 for this thing and they'll get it. I'm like, this is pretty good. And when they come to me and they're like, this identity work will be $500, and you give them the logo, and you give them breakdowns of every piece of the logo that can be used on different colors, on different color schemes, on light, on dark, on different sizes and vector. They're like, well, I didn't know I was getting all of this. Well, this is what you paid for. So, Merry Christmas.
Earlier, you were talking about people that kind of fall off the emote business. What is the market like as far as saturation goes that you're aware of? Like, is there still room for people to come in and start making emotes, as a viable revenue stream, or is it starting to get filled up? Do you have a sense of that?
The market is always open, but it's only open for exceptional art and for exceptional pricing. It's like any of the market; it's over flooded with artists, but a lot of them are just the effort isn't there to improve their craft as much as they would like it to be. Like if you look at what you do, like say if you're a carpenter and you were tasked to build a door, you can build a door that's flat. Or you could, chop down the finest tree. You could plane it, for days. You can make a fine piece of craftsmanship that works, that'll be great in winter and won't, when it gets wet, it won't curl up and fall apart. So that's the kind of like level of craftsmanship that every market needs. Every market needs a master craftsman. But mastering that craft is up to the artist. Because it's just like there are millions of people play basketball, but only a few people in the NBA because exceptional skills. So there's always room for better artists. There's always room for improvement. The thing that kills a lot of artists when they fall off is that they've grown so comfortable with what they make that they feel like I've reached the peak. There's nothing better I can do. Whereas I'm like, take this and make it better than before. You're like, well, you've made thousands of them. How could you make it any better? It makes it better. There's always something you can make it better. There's never a point in time. I'm not saying that you can reach perfection, but there's always a point where you can make something a little bit better. The color balance, working a smaller size, using different line weights, different I'll stare at somebody's other emo art that I like. I'm like, how? You'll take it, you'll break it down, you'll stare at it, you'll blow it up. You start pulling pixels out, and you'll shrink it and pull it back. You're like, what is going on here? This is witchcraft. And then you find out all the, that's when you find out all the little hexes they put all over through the pieces. You're like, you can start seeing, you get that sight beyond sight. You're like, oh, this is how they did it. This is you gotta come see this shit. Unless you're like really into the thing that you're into, it's kind of like being a film critic. You're like, well, no, in Tarantino's film and Reservoir Dogs, he was referencing this movie from 1976. So you see this when he uses music, this from this 52 Italian classic. And you're like, bro, who cares? And you're like, I do. I care. I'm trying to make not good movies. I want to make extraordinary movies. I don't want to make good emotes. I want to make extraordinary emotes. I don't want to make okay logos. I want to make fantastic logos. So you have that mindset when you make things, no matter if you're booked out 6 months or not. I'd rather, I just, there's always a better wheel to be made.
Yeah, complacency is death. That's the phrase that I like to repeat to myself. And yeah, there is always room to get. I'm always telling people that art is really just an ongoing process of getting better at the fundamentals. Like there's no point where you get to where you're like, okay, cool, I got like all of the basics down. Now I can go make good art. That's never happening. You're basically just always trying to still get a little bit better at making that color theory work or making your values work. It's not and never ending. Among these services that you provide, what constitutes the largest portion of your revenue stream?
Probably branding, because those jobs run 700 to 5 grand each. So probably stuff like that, or emergency rush order emotes. So people have ordered 50 emotes that they wanted in 2 weeks, and that could be like a few grand, like 2 to 3 grand or 4 grand, depending on how many emotes it is. So around there, but on average, just branding work, identity and branding work.
Yeah. And is there anything that you feel like underperforms? Like, does it all kind of do about what you want it to, or do you feel like sometimes there's things that underperform and you have to try and bring it up a little bit? Or
I always think a lot of things I do underperform, but that's always I'm trying to make it better. My clients argue otherwise. I'm like, there's no one better who does this stuff, and I'm like, you are wrong. But I'm getting close. But I am getting close.
Well, we talked a little bit. I keep saying that we talked a little bit when I'm referring to things that you actually mentioned. You mentioned pricing, and I actually did talk about it a little bit. Putting the proper pricing on something is crucial, and it's a huge issue for a lot of artists to come to grips with, like, what is the good pricing that you're supposed to be putting on your work to be fairly compensated. Was there a learning curve for you in terms of trying to figure out, like, what's an appropriate price tag for the services that you offer? Did you have any like tough come to Jesus moments where you had to wrestle with your own personal value, or were you just like right out of the gate ready to go?
So pricing, I'm gonna recommend this channel one more time. Recommend the Futures YouTube channel. But pricing, once I moved from taking the business, which was from part-time, which was like from March 4 years ago till about November, where I quit my bartending job. I went from like 5 days of bartending to 2 days to 1 day with a key, and I would show up and do work at the bar. Like, I work Sunday and Monday, where there's nobody coming in between like 4 o'clock and 6 o'clock, and then like 8 o'clock to midnight. I'm just at the bar making designs. The pricing came into play because I own my own home. I got rent. I'm not rent. So I got mortgage. I got bills. I got insurance. I'm paying off school loans. XYZ, and all that comes to X amount of grand a month. And you're like, can I actually make this work as a business doing emotes and design? And you come to find out when you're looking at the marketplace what people are charging, you're like, this is impossible. But that's when the turning point was, when I saw Christo's work on how much the logo costs. He sold this logo for $20,000, and I was like, and you just shit your pants immediately. Like, you literally have feces in your pants for 20 grand. That's impossible. Until I sold a logo like last year for like 2 grand, and I'm like, I guess it sounds more plausible. I mean, this could work. So if you're making stuff, but you're just getting by month to month, because no one will start their own business and just be paycheck to paycheck, because you might as well just do a paycheck to paycheck job. Once you realize the strength you have as a designer, the strength you have as an artist, the marketability you have, you come to realize that there is not a lot of quality designers that stick around because they're not charging them. And once you do something really well, people will seek you out. So I went from charging $50 for a logo to $500 within, I think, 2 years. And then as I did more and more business that were not inside of the Twitch space, inside the streaming space, where I did like heating and cooling companies, they were like $1,200, $2,000. stuff like that. The more professional business, the more the more applications it may need. This may need to be on a billboard. This may need to be on somebody's clothing as a piece of embroidery. It has to be on the side of a car as a wrap. All that plays into it. And all that stuff I've learned on YouTube for free, for $3.99. So that information is out there. But when you're charging, I see character artists do this. I'm a concept artist that can work. Oh yeah, I draw a character. Sketches are $10. Full renders are $50, and I'm like, you're not going to do this very long. I'm not a character artist. I dabble in character art because I think it's fun. I find great joy in it. That is why I do character art. People contact me, how much for character art? I'm like, $300 for the sketch. And they're like, okay. And I'm like, okay, well, here's the invoice. I'll see you in 6 months.
So we have this conversation coming with pretty much every guest when we talk about pricing. But so people that have heard the prior episodes know what this question is. What advice would you give to somebody that's in a low cost of living country like Brazil or Poland or Thailand, and they can live on $100 a month comfortably?
Mm-hmm.
But you're saying numbers that to them sound astronomical. Is it right for them to charge $5,000 for something that takes them a day to finish, or should they stick to charging $5 per emote? What thoughts do you have on the low cost of living countries and how they contribute to the international market of art?
Once you realize that where you live at is irrelevant to what you should make, that answers that question. It doesn't matter if you live in the North Pole. You're dealing with a global economy. If you were dealing with people just around the block, you're not dealing with Joe Schmo around the block. I'm dealing with people that live, like I live in Ohio, and I'm charging people, like somebody sees a logo I make for $500 and they're living in California, like, that's it? And I'm like, that's it. I probably should kick it up a little more. $750? $1,000? Yeah. It doesn't really matter where you live at. Where you set your stake down in your home is irrelevant to how much money you should make. If you're all producing the same quality content, you should all be raising those rates. Do you want to live I can live comfortably, or do you want to be a king? If you have the option to be a king, take out the crown and shine it up. Why would you pass up on that opportunity? I might lose business. If you're charging 5 times, you're going to be gaining much more work, much more income for less work. So there you go.
Yeah, you just anticipated my next question. And like Moose said, that we repeat these conversations a lot. So to anybody that's listening that's heard this before, my apologies. But you never know which episode is going to be the first one that people listen to. So it's like, if there's an opportunity to plug it in somewhere, it's worth getting into. And you briefly just commented on this, but I was going to ask you specifically, you hear somebody say, well, if I charge more, then no one's going to buy commissions or purchase my product. Can you expand on that a little bit more? The thinking of like why that's not correct thinking.
If that was the case, there'd be no Lamborghinis. There'd be no Balenciagas or whatever the hell they call them. There'd be no Supreme clothing. There'd be no high-end products anywhere for any person. So you just torpedoed your own argument looking at the current market. There's always room to charge more for what you do. And even I'm not charging enough. The only reason I haven't raised my price in the past year is because we're in a pandemic. That is the one and only reason I haven't raised prices. Because I would like to see people, this is me being the philanthropist, make more money with the things I make for them. I want them to be successful. And we can be successful during the pandemic by me producing this product at this price. I'm more than happy to freeze my pricing until we're out of this god awful mess. But the prices are going up. They're definitely going up.
I was going to say, if you're 5 months out, man.
Yeah,
it's got to be coming soon, right?
It was going to happen last year and before summer hit, and then we're here now.
and we had like a recovery that some people are going up like dramatically. They're making tons of money during the pandemic, and there's other people that are obviously living not even paycheck to paycheck, but month to month with whatever money they can scrounge up. But that just means like if you see somebody is coming from a giant company or they are loaded, that you can then change your pricing to fit that client rather than sticking to a stock price, right?
Oh yeah, I don't have stock prices. That's why logos range $350 to $750. Because if I'm making a piece of merchandise for a content creator who is just starting and they need something simple and get them out the door, it's like $400. If I am dealing with a heating and cooling company that is servicing Northeast Ohio, it's you can look up their net worth on any website. For what this because their application is going to be much more higher than what you're producing. Like I said before, it's going to be used on a bunch of platforms. It's got to work on business cards. It's got to work on clothing. It's got to work on cars. It's got to work on their designs. It's got to work on their letterhead. All that's got to be taken into consideration. I'm making this thing for your profile picture. You've got 2 applications. I'm working with somebody with a client that's producing all the stuff. This client has 100 applications. This is not on the same footing. The design research goes much higher. You don't look like another design in the same area. It's a lot of marketing research that goes into it, which a lot of people don't tell you that sometimes you got to look at a bunch of other stuff in the exact same market of the thing you're producing. But all that factors into the price. And one thing that factors into the price that I'm not sure many people know about, when somebody comes to you with an idea or no idea, when somebody comes to you with no idea, oh yeah, make whatever you want. That's double off the bat. So a logo that will cost you $400 is now $800. You're like, why is it double? Well, I have to now go through all your VODs. I have to look at your social media. I have to see what you do. I talk to your community. I have to do this. I have to do that. And this. I'm like, let me get back to you in an hour. I sound, oh yeah, you got some ideas now? I bet. No, oh yeah, okay. I'll see you in an hour. And that's to save your own sanity and to let you know that your time is worth it. Also, one more thing for designers. When somebody contacts you about design work, and they say, well, what would you do with this? And they'll just ask you a simple question. You have to tell them that your ideas aren't free. And sometimes I do conference calls, and my conference calls are $50 or $75 an hour to talk to me about your potential design work, and that's paid up front. If you want to talk about it, it's $50, $75, just for me to talk about your idea. And we can do this, that, and this, and the other. Otherwise, we're not talking about it at all. Well, I'll just hire somebody else. Good. You should probably hire somebody else because what's stopping you from taking my idea? Because your ideas are more valuable in the design world than the execution sometimes. What's stopping you from taking my idea and hiring somebody in Indonesia and charging them $25 to make it? Nothing. Nothing at all. That's correct. So protect your ideas. Please protect your ideas. Can I see a sketch of it? No, you may not see a sketch of it. Here's my portfolio of all the thousands of clients I've had. It's here for a reason. So be mindful.
Yeah, I'll do you one better, man. And in the tattoo industry, someone comes to me with the do whatever you want thing. That's just an automatic no. I don't even try and charge you extra. I'm just saying no, because I've done that before, and inevitably, it never fails. I'm going to spend hours coming up with the design that I like, and then they're going to realize that they actually didn't mean what they said. They didn't actually mean do whatever you want. They meant read my mind and make the thing that you see in my mind really cool on paper. And then I'm going to try another 50. Okay, I'm ranting. Anyway, let's come back. Go ahead, Moose.
What about the polar opposite? If they had come to you with a whole lot of ideas and they want you to cram them all together into the perfect thing, is that like common, or is that also one of the things that triggers a bump in the price?
Oh no, I love that. The more input, the better. The more visual, like if you come at me with 75 pictures and I can just take out the strongest ones and like just distill down like 10 pictures and like you represent that, you're like, this is what you want? You're like, this is exactly what I want. I'm like, good. We just saved ourselves 5 hours of time here, my friend. the more input you get, the better. There's knowledge is power. Not knowledge is power. The more you know. Like I ask people for, send me 5 to 7 pictures. If somebody sends me a Google document with like bullets and points and designs, I'm like, we just say this so much time. This design makes itself. This design makes itself. So the more information, the better.
I mean, that's assuming that it's organized in some coherent way, right? Like, I imagine you get briefs sometimes where it's just like, this is a clusterfuck. I can't make heads or tails of what they actually want me to do. No?
I'm pretty intuitive.
Oh, shit. All right.
I'm pretty intuitive.
God bless
I
you.
think it's just from like talking to people as a bartender. It's just like, I don't know. I can kind of just intuit what you would like.
I don't know, man.
It helps.
A lot of this interview smells like you have some weird superpowers that the rest of humanity is not is not in possession of.
Patience. Lots of patience. One thing I learned doing martial arts, doing internal martial arts, is like we would stand in the sun, like just stand for like a couple hours, just breathing, and you kind of just slow down everything, and you kind of take it in just beat by beat, and that's why you can kind of just like you see like somebody's having some problems, you can intuit that this is not the normal thing, or you can intuit like they've seen something that they're super excited about and they want something very similar, and then you can just say, well, asking the right questions. Why do you think this would be a good fit for you? And why do you want this thing? Well, X, Y, and Z has it, but you're not X, Y, and Z. So is this the best thing for you? I'm sure think about that for a second before I take your money. Because as counterintuitive as it may be, being the greatest advocate for your client, even at your own like peril sometimes, is better for you in the long run, because they'll take that information like, you know what, this was a bad idea this time. And, you may hear from that person, you may not, or they may come to you. Yeah, my company, we're doing this thing. We're redoing like our branding, and we have a $15,000 budget, and we'd like to work with you. He said he had a great. He said you saved him like a few $100. He would like to work with you on this thing. You're like, oh man, this has come back down the pipe. I'm glad I was nice to that guy or that lady, or it helps. So being open to doing what's best for you and doing what's best for the client at the same time is all I want to do. That's it. It's not really like any special skill. It's just listening and patience. Because you can be over flooded with like just visual information, because you can't let the things that happen to you early in the day, the things that happened yesterday, the things that happened last week, impact what you do as a business person, or impact things. Like I am completely detached from everything everything's compartmentalized. I'm having a shitty morning, and then somebody reaches out because this design didn't look right. I'm like, you know what? Let me hear them out. You like take down their input, and you're like, maybe this is maybe they're wrong, maybe they're right. Let's just keep an open mind. But you can't let that stuff stack. If you let it stack, it can blind you to almost everything. It puts you you put blinders on. You don't want to deal with anything left or right. You gotta be very careful about that.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, one place that is good to see your people skills and your personability is on Twitch. You stream full time, yeah?
Yeah.
What brought you into streaming? How did you get clued into that? And what made you think, that's the thing that I want to be doing?
So I was doing the fan art, and I was doing the emotes, and I was doing a podcast, a Destiny podcast. And my buddy Too Loud TX was like, you should stream your artwork on Twitch. And I was like, you're a moron. I'm not streaming my artwork on Twitch. And I was wrong. I owe him a Coke. And I started streaming after I got done working at the bar. So people get to see their designs be made at midnight until 4 a.m. for like a number of months. And then, I have like 5 people hanging around, I just me with the tunes blasting and I'm just making stuff, making emotes. I'm like, oh man, you make emotes? I'm like, yep, I'm making emotes. They're like, oh, would you make stuff for me? I'm like, yeah, contact me on Twitter. It's like 2 weeks. 2 weeks, fantastic. That would turn in 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks. 7 months is the longest time, like backup time I've had. 7 months. So that was another way to get in front of people. But yeah, so that's how I got started. My buddy was like, we did a podcast together. You should do this live. And I'm like, ugh. Okay, sure, why not? Let's try it
out. So was there some getting used to it? Because I know a lot of people talk about that, where it just feels kind of a little bit weird doing it at first until you get into the swing of it.
No, not really, because we broadcast the podcast live on a Twitch channel. That's right. And I wasn't in charge of it. I was just kind of sitting back on like on a laptop like webcam, which was like out of place. Like turn the laptop in the right angle. It was just like, it was fine. And I talked to people all day at the bar, so it was just like, that was fine.
What about coming up with ideas while streaming? Is that an impediment at all? I know some people that have a hard time starting the process on a stream, but they can finish it on a stream.
No, I just mostly work on stream, so I'm kind of like double dipping. Like I'm already getting paid for the work I'm doing, and then I'm just doing it live, and people are subbing. So I'm just double dipping and just showing the work I'm doing. Mostly stream because I don't want to work alone. Because any designer knows that design work can be very lonely unless you're working like and in a design department with other designers.
So your mind is on more of the process of designing more so than the chat. You're not as focused on chat, or does it just chat not distract you very much in general?
No, not distracting. Well, sometimes there's tangents. I'm just making stuff at the same time. Like I'll look over like whatever. Cheese on a what? No, this is stupid. Okay, whatever. And or some other things we'll start talking about movies, or we'll have conversation about what happened in the day, or it's all very natural. I don't think about ideas. I just like anything else. Like I don't edit. I'm just like live. What I'm going to sketch up. I know I saw something that I was watching last night. I'll find a picture of that person. I'll sketch that for an hour or whatever, and then I'll get to work.
So a warm up before you actually get to business.
Oh yeah, I spend 1 to 2 hours every day drawing whatever I want, or designing whatever I want. That allows me to design and draw and stream 7 days a week. I've been doing 7 days a week for 2.5, 3 years. And people would say, like, wouldn't you like get tired of designing stuff? I'm like, not really, because I'm making whatever I want. I'm trying to get better at whatever I do. And if I didn't like take some time to do whatever I wanted, like have some resets, you would go insane. I think I would have gone insane a long time ago. But the art, like the act of creation, like at the beginning is just like, all right, I am going to draw a big busty waifu, or I'm going to make a logo for a company that does not exist, or I'll make a T-shirt design that maybe it'll sell, maybe it won't, and whatever. I'm just trying to make whatever's in my head, and then I'll do design work for somebody else.
That was actually a question that we had coming up: is burnout and mental fatigue. Because I was aware that you stream regularly, full time, but I didn't know that it was seven days a week for the past 2 or 3 years. Mm-hmm. That's intense, man. So have you ever had to confront burnout or mental fatigue?
Nope, not really. A lot of the mental toughness I got was from doing martial arts for so long. Lots of repetition, lots and lots of hours and hours. Like when I say I did internal martial arts, I did Chin Tai Chi, and the first form is Ilu, which takes 8 minutes to perform. And we did that form 15 times, 8 to 15 times every class, like 2-3 hour class. And then you would go home and do it some more to get good at it. And then you would train for competition. And you kind of just build up this, it's stamina. It's mental stamina. You can't, it's everything you do. It's like, it's a muscle. You kind of just, you flex a little bit, you let it rest. You flex a little bit, you let it rest. It gets stronger over time. It's like a form of willpower. Like I tell people, like when they want to learn how to do something, oh, I want to learn how to do this. I'm gonna do it 8 hours a day for the next 15 days. Or like, how about you start doing like 10 minutes a day, and then like 10 minutes for the next 2 weeks, and then think about 30 minutes after that. Like, but I want to be like you. Well, this is how I did it. If you try to jump off a building and you haven't walked before as a baby, you're going to break both your legs, and you're never going to want to walk again. You won't want to jump again. You won't do anything. You'll literally break your entire spirit. That spirit is forged over time. That mental toughness is forged over time. Like I had to slap a bag of sand, 50,000 times over the course of like a few months. And that took time to like build up the mental fortitude to make that happen without wanting to quit, because you can't just jump in and do it immediately. You'll bruise the front and back of your hand, and you'll break a small bone. You have to like literally take your time with everything, and everything builds up over time. That willpower is like 5, and you push a little bit and get to 7, and over time, because you can almost do anything. You can almost do anything. Like the human potential is like astronomical, but you can't be a superhero if you've never faced any trials. You're gonna fall over dead on the spot.
I feel like we should be recommending martial arts to more artists. It seems like there's a lot of benefit here.
Should.
Yeah, I just added a question to the end of the sheet so we could tack it on. But since we're on the topic now, considering many of the artists in our community are otherwise potatoes, what's martial arts would you suggest they look into after lockdown ends to learn patience?
Oh, a good one is the internal martial arts. Chinese internal martial arts is not great for self-defense until like the very end high levels, which no one really reaches in America. Like to become proficient at self-defense with these martial arts, it would take a decade, and that's not great for fighting or self-defense whatsoever. But it does teach you the value of breath control, patience, flexibility, and it's good mental. Like the more movement you do, the better it is for your mindset, the better it is for your creativity. Get the blood flowing, get the endorphins up. I power lift 5 days a week, and I practice a little bit before and after like I do my lifts, but not as to the high intensity as I was in my 20s and early 30s. Yeah, 20s and early 30s. So yeah, Tai Chi, Bagua. Some people like to do jujitsu. That's a very popular martial art, but you can't really practice it alone, and that's better for self-defense, from what I hear. So yeah, any kind of thing that helps stimulate your mind and your body at the same time, because there is a lot of nuance in movement, and when you think about moving your body as one whole piece, you've seen people do Tai Chi, and they're like, oh yeah, I'll do the Tai Chi, I'm moving my body. But when you think about it from when somebody that actually does it teaches you the martial art from how it's supposed to be done, there's more than just a movement. Like when somebody does this, like, oh yeah, I'm doing Tai Chi, instead of like learning from a proper thing, you've learned like all the mechanics of your body, and when you breathe in and twist, and then the entire body moves, and then this part moves, the elbow spirals out. And then there's all this internal movement going on at the same time, and exhaling at the same time with every breath. It's like when a movement comes in, and then turning, everything moves at the same time. So you have to think about all those motions at the exact same time, and breathing at the right time, and exhale at the same time. So it's mentally exhausting, and it's physically subtle to everything you do. So that helps bring the acuity a lot more. Like I can draw for hours on end. Like I've drawn 8 to 12 hours in sittings before, and I'm not really thinking about drawing with my hand. I'm not drawing with my hand. I'm not drawing with my shoulder. I'm drawing my entire body the entire time. Every time I move, everything's moving here. I never slunch over my seat. That's all from doing the martial arts. It's all from sitting and standing in the sun with proper alignment the entire time. I can just sit here and draw for hours and hours and hours, but I'm not really using the muscles of my hand. I'm using my entire body as the conduit for my pencil or my stylus. So martial arts are great, especially the finer ones. The more subtle arts are great for art.
That's awesome. Or we're going to put some information related to that in the show notes, actually, because that's the first time that we've talked about that. Specifically the physical connection to your mental connection, and I feel like that it's worth a lot more conversation in itself. Maybe another time. Coming back to your Twitch streaming, knowing how long you've been doing it, and then kind of seeing it kind of take off like relatively quickly. It seems like you had kind of been like on the grind for a while, and then I know it wasn't literally overnight, but it just started booming. It started taking off. Did that catch you off guard, or were you sort of like on the mission to build a community and build a larger following from the beginning?
It kind of did happen overnight, and this is why I say you kind of want to be the best person you can be for all the time, and you try to help as many people as you can. So I had like 40, 50 people on average for like a couple years, and then last year, one of the people that came by my stream all the time was in Australia, and they hang out, we do sketches together and stuff like that. And then somebody they mod for, they brought him over and we're hanging out, and they raided a few times. And he had 15, 20 people at a time raiding in this community, and he's a really nice guy. And then I think a couple months later, he exploded. So he went from having 50 people or 20 people to having 7,000 people. And then he started raiding me every single night for 2 weeks, and I had to tell him to stop raiding me. Number one, there were so many people in the community that had been doing it longer than I had that needed the eyeballs. Because I'm not streaming to make money. I don't look at my stream. There's no sub goals on my channel. There's no bars saying I need to fill this up. There's none of that, because I am here working for you. I'm already making money. This is me. I don't want to be alone when I do it. This is why I'm here. I'm not here to I need to have this many subs to eat this month. I am here because I am just here. You can leave and come back. There's no stress. That person's Brox. Brox in New Zealand. He's a polishing wood carver. He's kept raiding. I'm like, Brox, man, I love you, but please find some other artists in this directory that need to have some eyeballs on him. And he did eventually. And people were like, why would you even tell him to do that? He was dropping off thousands of people every night. I'm like, yeah, but I don't need the eyeballs, really. This isn't a make or break thing. If there are 5 people here or 50 people here, I'm going to do the exact same thing. If there are 5,000 people here, I am going to do the exact same thing. People are rating aren't you freaking out? I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm not going to freak out. This is not life altering. It might be, and I might not know it, but I mean, I'm glad you guys are here. Have a seat or not. I mean, I'm very let's go with the flow. So that kind of shifted the stream to get partnered, because there was no partner goals. I think I applied once before. I was like, okay, I applied, didn't happen, so what? And then I got partnered, oh yeah, you got 1,000 subs from all that traffic. And I was like, oh fuck. It wasn't, oh fuck, I got 1,000 subs. My oh fuck moment was I gotta make all these fucking emotes for the channel now. That was my moment of dread. It was not that I got partners. I've got to make and draw all these emotes for the channel now, and I don't want to. I draw emotes every day. I don't want to make emotes for myself. This is not the play. Why are you guys torturing me with making more emotes? So that was probably the biggest thing.
Then you outsource and you be like, hey, I'll buy emotes from you, and then I'll put them on my channel, and people are like, hey, that's the guy who did the emotes for the person who makes emotes.
Luckily, no one fixed all that. I made emotes for Patreon, and I just took all the emotes I made before and just put them in the slots. Bingo.
And real quick, Brox, is that the guy who was in the viral video of the two types of streamers? The one that, not the person that was yelling $5 a month if you have time to watch me. You have $5 a month a sub, and contrast that with Brox, who was like, oh, did somebody gift a sub? Oh, can I give the money back?
That is Brox. And Brox still comes to hang out, but he doesn't raid anymore. Thank God he doesn't raid anymore, but he still comes by to hang out. I love Brox. Brox is such a great guy, so wholesome. I think that's why he brought his community by. He's like, this guy's wholesome. I think I like him too. And he'd bring by people like, all right, Brox, just stop bringing by people. He's like, all right, bro, I'll stop bringing by people.
Yeah, he is
love that guy though.
He's a super cool dude. I've been in his schedule doesn't quite line up right, but I was hitting the wrong alt button. Yeah, I was just saying that guy is fucking super, super cool and so chill. And the New Zealand accent just makes it all the more better. You're just like, oh man, who needs an ASMR channel when you got this guy? Well, that whole story of the history of making partner and kind of how that came about sort of answered my next set of questions. So we're coming into the wrap up. There were a couple questions from chat that I wanted to tack on that kind of go back to a couple of things that you had mentioned before. Somebody earlier asked, how many design versions do you show a client? So when you're working on a product, how many like preliminary sketches or whatever do you go through?
Oh, 2 to 3. 2 to 3 possible courses. And they're very, very rough.
Is there a limit on revisions, or do you just keep letting them keep saying no, not that until they're happy?
If we get to a point where I've done like a second course, I would like to. I'll bring up the briefing and they sent me, and I would say, so what brand or what content out there or what design out there does really resonates with you, to give me a better direction on which to go. And at that point, if I follow that next guideline, you have to realize that the client wants something, but they don't know how to actually put into words. And that's the point where you have to say, you know what, it's unfortunately this isn't going to work out. I've put X amount of like designs into this. The time is irrelevant, so I don't charge by the hour. I put this much time into it. What I think you want is something I probably cannot provide, because I'm not sure. I don't say, you know what the fuck you want, man. I say, unfortunately, your design brief isn't up to par for what I need to. What's necessity for me to actually design this. So, unfortunately, this is, I'm gonna have to stop the project here. It's been great working with you, and I hope for your continued success. Which literally has only happened out of all probably the 20 people that weren't happy. Probably 4 of those people were that kind of talk, where you had to have that kind of talk. Otherwise, I'm just like, I can pretty much get the ideas of people.
Somebody else had asked if you had any advice for artists that are doing other types of art than this kind of design work. Do you have any advice for them for how to approach getting into design work?
Getting into design work. I would say make designs for yourself. Like one huge thing, like my entire people see my branding for my Conquer line. Like I want something similar to that, or I'll literally the thing that will get you into getting more design work is producing more design work. And if you produce it for yourself, and even if it's like a joke, like if you sometimes you'll make a meme out of like a logo. You'll design a logo that'll be a meme of something else. I mean, that could be very simple. People are like, oh man, I need to do something like that. I'm like, oh yeah, I can. Can you do something like that for me? I'm like, yeah, I can. So that's what we can do a design where you did literally what you want to do is what you need to do. So what you want to do is what you need to do. You're not going to become a motorcycle engineer by dealing with bicycles. You have to you've got to actually pull out a motorcycle and find out how it works.
Moose, did you have anything that you had written down? Any follow-ups?
Yeah, just one. When I've been looking online for people that were looking to sell T-shirts, the almost universal advice is to sell an Amazon merch. Have you looked into that, or was there any specific reason that you either rejected it, or are you even on it right now?
I'm not on it. Pretty much everything I make, I sell off my website. And everything else that's like, print to direct to print merchandise is on Threadless because I don't have to think about it. So I guess Amazon merch might be good. I never used it, so it might be great. It might be something you need to look into. I have to make a note right here.
Yeah, there's a few places. Like, it's a big topic on YouTube. Like, if you search for Amazon merch advice or tips, things I wish I had learned before I started doing Amazon merch or whatever, or how to get into Amazon merch, because it requires a application even to get in. So,
one thing I would say is once you build up like a good community, like a good fan base as an artist, do limited runs, and do pre-orders. That's one way to make sure you're not sitting on a ton of stock. Like I've had, T-shirts and hoodies go for pre-order, and people are like, well, it's the hoodie was $45 on pre-order. Like, it's $45 now, but I might have like 4 or 5 left over, and they'll be $55. They're like, what? And then they'll jump on the pre-order because they don't want to spend the or people come to me later on like, you have any more left? I'm like, yeah, I got 3, and they might not be your size. So pre-orders are a great idea.
Fantastic, man. Where would you like people to go to find your work? Where do you like your traffic funnel to end up?
Oh, it's all on my website, khanartist.org, khanartist.org. I think having your own website is paramount to anybody finding you or taking you seriously as a designer and artist. Link trees and Weebly's and Wix sites should be temporary at best, but you should always invest in something that's your own branded front as a storefront or as a designer. And when I see someone that has amazing work and they're on .weebly, I take them a little bit less seriously because I'm not sure if they're as invested in the art as they should be, and I might pass them over. So looking professional and being professional are almost synonymous.
I got schooled on Linktree recently. Like, it was pointed out that there's no reason why your own website shouldn't be your own Linktree. Like, you can set it up to be basically doing the exact same thing. And I was like, of
Bingo.
course. Why the fuck do I have? What is Linktree even for? Why does it exist? Anyway, one last question, man. Unless there was anything that we didn't get to, anything that we didn't talk about that you would like to make sure somebody knows about?
I think so. I'm forgetful though too. I probably thought of something and forgot it already.
And if you did forget something, you're always welcome to follow up with us afterwards. The recordings don't go out until the week after, so if there's anything that you want us to include in the show notes afterwards, we can do that. Otherwise, we just have our final question. Aside from work and personal projects, what's one thing that's happening in the world right now that you're excited about?
Getting vaccinated.
That is a popular response.
One thing I am excited about because I have an autoimmune disease. And so does my lady. She got vaccinated because she works at a school, but I would like to get out and go to a bar to have a proper IPA.
Have you gotten the appointment yet, or are you still searching for one?
I'm still not up for it. Like it's gotta be, there's like diabetics up first, the elderly, and there's a few others. If I didn't work from home, I would be SOL.
Right.
Actually. Yeah.
Quick tip
I'm lucky.
for anybody in the United States that's looking for employment. One way to do it, if you don't have somebody handling it for you, like if you don't work for a university or whatever, many of these pharmacies, like Walgreens or Rite Aid, etc., they stock their new appointments at midnight, between midnight and 3 a.m. every night. So that's why a lot of elderly people are having a hard time finding appointments, because they're looking at like 2 p.m. and there's none there. So if you're looking for employment, start looking around midnight and stop around 3 a.m.
There you go. Or just be an asshole and jump in line because it's the honor system. But you didn't hear that from me. I heard that from somebody else. Thank you so much, Khan. Man, this has been a blast. So much great information. It's been a pleasure and an honor. Thank you for giving us your time, man.
Oh yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Fantastic. Well, I will wave goodbye and hit